What's actually happened, Rob?
You had a meeting.
Have you reached agreement though? I'm at 50.
You cannot litigate what is in a cabinet document in a public forum before it goes to cabinet.
Sit outside the room and scream and yell.
I'm sure Nationals voters want to know, though, what the Nationals were advocating for.
I'll get to see it in probably about 24 hours' time. Thanks, guys.
There has been an exceptional amount of noise over the past week and the weekend about something we still know nothing about. Well, at least officially.
The first rule of Fight Club is not to talk about Fight Club.
The government was in a bit of a tight spot today because, despite the apparent agreement by the Nats on a secret agreement, the Australian public won't get to know the details until after Cabinet meets tonight. In the meantime, there were some excruciating moments as ministers faced questioning in Senate estimates.
Is it still the National Party's view that electric vehicles will end the weekend?
Is that now a decision for Cabinet?
So, what do we know of what the Nats want from the PM in return for their support for a net zero emissions target by 2050? We know, by the way, that the Nationals' leader and Deputy Prime Minister does not support a net zero position, but accepts it as the narrow majority position of his party room. Scott Morrison confirmed just before question time that he was granting the first of the junior party's demands, restoring the position of Resources Minister Keith Pitt to Cabinet, the man who recently canvassed a $250 billion taxpayer-funded support plan for the resources sector and who doesn't support net zero.
What is on the list? Does it include $250 billion for risky investments, mining investments that Mr Pitt proposed?
All of this will be public in the next couple of days, Senator Wong.
Cabinet was expected to consider this evening demands for a regional future fund, commitments about regional jobs and investment, and changes to environmental protection laws. The PM has already rejected a push to clear the way for a nuclear power industry and the capacity to hit the pause button if the net zero commitment was hurting regional Australia. A week out from the Glasgow Climate Summit, where does all this leave the country as opposed to the coalition? Does it fundamentally change anything? While our debate has been concentrating on 2050, at Glasgow, countries will be asked to deliver what are known as nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, for 2030. That is, formal emissions cut targets for the end of the decade. Last week, the Prime Minister ruled out any change in Australia's 2030 target.
So that won't change. That target, which was set at 2015 and which is for 2030, is not changing. Okay.
Australia's target of 26 to 28% by 2030 was already a smaller cut in emissions than what other countries promised at Paris, like the UK and the EU, which committed to 50% by 2030. But we could be more of an outlier this time. While the government will forecast beating its 2030 target, it won't make any firm commitments, even as the UK has ratcheted up its formal commitment to a whopping 68%.
Well, I think at the very least, the Prime Minister should take the average targets of all the states and territories here in Australia, which would be around a 35% target. A projection without a target for 2030 basically says we don't take climate change seriously, or we don't trust our projections or the policies to get there.
The government's compromise position is unlikely to satisfy international pressures, but it is not clear it will resolve domestic pressures either. Rebel Nationals MP George Christensen and Senator Matt Canavan, who are both firmly against the 2050 net zero target, were making noises of rebellion on Sunday in the party room.
Whether they want to do something other than stay in the room and argue on behalf of their communities is up to them. I can't make decisions for them. Those opposite scoff at this, Mr.
There is an active discussion in Labor over whether it simply adopts the official government 2030 forecast as a target, or whether it goes for something more ambitious, like the 45% reduction it took to the 2019 election.
Does that mean that your 2030 target will be at least as ambitious as the 45%?
It means in the weeks following COP, Anthony and I will be outlining policies to build on what we've already, the very substantial offering we've already made, and with more detail around the strong and ambitious roadmap towards net zero.
Why not before COP?
Well, as I said, we've given the government a chance. You know, we've tried to give them room.
The difference between 2019 and 2021 is that groups from the Business Council to the National Farmers Federation now agree with Labor's 2019 pledge. But despite Newspoll today recording the worst primary vote for the coalition in 3 years, and reports of other party and interest group polling showing climate change as an issue on the rise with voters, many in Labor remain gloomy about their prospects and cautious about how aggressive they should be on the climate change issue. For their part, the Queensland Nationals are spooked by the spectre of Clive Palmer's advertising clout and losing votes to Pauline Hanson's One Nation from the net zero position. Climate change and ambition remain terms rarely seen together in Australian politics.
Thanks for that, guys.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.